Hi, my name is Matt Fox. I'm the VP of Product and Engineering here at TopLeft. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create the two Kanban boards that we recommend for help desk teams. So that'd be for service managers and dispatchers and the technicians who work on the help desk teams. Um, we do have another video about exactly how to go about creating a Kanban board, what fields do what and things like that. So you should watch that one first if you don't already know about how to create a Kanban board. What I'm going to focus on in this video is why do we create those two particular Kanban boards for a help desk team. So the two boards are one that shows the help desk tickets with them grouped by who they are assigned to. So that's one of the boards. The other one is a board that just shows all the tickets all together, not grouping them anyway, but there's a special way to make that useful for the engineers so they have a single place to see their work. So that's what I'll be describing here. Let's jump in. So to do this, you need to be an administrator in TopLeft. And if you are, you'll see under the boards menu, you'll see a link here, add board. And what I'm using our ConnectWise version here today, but if you're using Autotask or some other PSA, it's going to be very similar. So either way, you're going to select tickets. That's the kind of board that we want to make. So under the general tab, you're just going to give it just call it help desk tickets, or if you have a special name for your team, you might name it after the name of that team. For the card fields and metrics, I'm just going to leave those at the defaults. Also under ranking, leave that at the default. Swim lanes, we are going to change to resource. And if you're in auto task mode, you're going to select probably primary resource as a swim lane. So then we go over to the filters tab. So this is where we decide which tickets do we want to see on this board. So if you're ConnectWise, you're going to choose the ConnectWise board where those tickets live, or it might be two or more boards. If it's auto task, then you're probably going to select the queue or queues where those tickets live. And hopefully that's enough. That might be the only things that you need to do on the filters tab. There is one case I've seen at a lot of MSPs. That's where multiple teams within the company actually work from the same ConnectWise board or the same auto task queue, but you are just making a Kanban board just for one of those teams. So if that's your case, you won't be able to just do ConnectWise board or AutoTask queue as a filter because then you'll get the other teams showing on there as well. So in that case, you probably need to select the actual individuals who are on the team that you're making this board for. So whether that's 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever, select their names here under resources, and then that will be how you see uh, the tickets for the team that you're making this board for. Then I'll go over to the columns. So let me explain our recommended columns. Now, if you're already really familiar with Kanban and you know exactly what columns you want, go ahead and do that. But if you are just getting started and you want some recommendations, these are the columns that have worked really well for a lot of MSPs. So I click Add Column here to make a few columns. So what we recommend are, first of all, the new column, and that would be the tickets that have come in. They're waiting to be triaged. So far, no one's looked at them yet. Second column is ready. That means they've gone through their triage process and probably they've been assigned to a technician and they're ready to be worked. Second one is waiting. Our third one is waiting. That means that they're waiting on somebody outside of the team. Usually that's the client, but it certainly could be the third vendor or some other third party. The next column is scheduled. That represents work where there's nothing to be done on that ticket right now. There is more to be done, but that's done at a known time in the future. So for these tickets, you do want to have a service call or an entry in the calendar for that. So because you know which time they need to be done. But at least right now, there's nothing to be done on those tickets. Okay, then we get to the in progress column. Sometimes we also call that the started column. And then finally, we have one for completed. Now, showing the completed column is really kind of personal preference. Some people like to have a place to see the completed work, and other people say, you know what, no, once it's done, I don't want to see it anymore on the board. So it's really up to you. The one thing to consider though is that if you do want a place for technicians to drag the work to a column when it's done, then you are going to need to have the completed column, obviously, even if you don't really care about using it to review from time to time. Now, if you are using it to review from time to time, you might wonder how long are those tickets going to stay incompleted? And basically, it's usually about 24 hours with our default settings. That's how long we keep tickets in our copy of your database after they've been completed. Okay, so now the exercise is to map the statuses to these columns that we've made. So obviously, new status is going to go in the new column. Ready status is going to go in the ready column. Probably also assigned in our example here is going to go in the ready column. For waiting, I only have one waiting status here. You may have 3 or 4 different waiting statuses. Those should all go in one column. Scheduled has its own status. In progress also has that. And then we have a few for completed. So I'm just going to move all of canceled, closed, and completed, and I guess also resolved. Put that in there. Okay, so that's kind of the simple version of making the columns here. I'll click save, and we'll get our first view of that board. Okay, very good. I see the columns that we've set up here. The first swim lane here is tickets that aren't assigned to anybody, followed by swim lane here for Terry, and as we go down, one for each of the members of our help desk team here. So we can really easily see who's assigned to what. And, I can drag tickets from one column to the next. If I was to drop that there, it would go actually change that ticket status in my PSA for me. So there are a couple of extra things that we can do here to provide useful notifications about problems about this work. So let me set those up now. I'll just click edit here to edit this board again. So most of that's set up from the columns tab here. One option is to set a work in progress limit. That's what you would do if you want to and give visibility into ensuring that technicians don't have too much in any particular column. Okay, so for example, if it's in progress, we wouldn't want them to have more than 3 tickets in progress at once. So we'll put in 3 for work in progress maximum. Now, by default, this 3 actually applies to the board as a whole. Now, if we're using the uh, member swim lanes, that doesn't make too much sense. It would make a lot more sense to do it per, 3 per swim lane. And I can do that under the general tab here by the swim lanes by just click whip limits per swim lane. So I'll enable that option and then go back to the columns. Now, another problem that MSPs have sometimes is that tickets get to a certain part of the workflow, like they get to in progress, and then they just sit there. They don't, maybe you got tickets that have been in progress for 3 weeks, right? That's no good. The customer is going to notice that and wonder what's going on. So we want to be the ones who know when a ticket's not moving forward. And we can do that by highlighting those tickets using the age warning field here. So for example, in the in progress column, I might say, I want to highlight the tickets that have been in progress for 2 days or more. So I'll just put in 2D for 2 days, and that will highlight it that way. And the final thing that frequently is useful to notify about is SLAs or either SLAs that have been violated or are at risk of being violated because the end of the stage is coming up soon. And TopLeft can help with that. Now, if you're not using SLAs, this doesn't apply, but I'll explain how to set that up. One thing that we might want to notify on or highlight tickets on is if they're in the waiting for triage and the triage SLA stage is coming up soon. So I set that up under the advanced options button here. So do 2 things. One is show. I want to show the SLA data on the card, so I select that option here under SLA time. That will just put it on the card, like when does how much time do we have left in the current SLA stage. And I do also want to add a warning there. So let's say that in the new status or new column, I want to warn when it's within 30 minutes of the end of the stage. So I'll put in 30M for 30 minutes there, and I'll explain what that does when we see it. So I'll just close that. And that gives you a good example of some of the key warning indicators that we can put on the board here. So I'll just click save and then show you what that does. So those 3 things that we did here, the first one is the work in progress limit. Notice that for a swim lane where there's 3 or less that I had put in there in that threshold, these get a green indicator there to say, yes, this is within the threshold that I set. If I can go and find one, here, Joseph has 18 in progress right now, so it gets a red background to help you identify when someone's within that threshold or beyond that. The second thing is we put the age warning field on. So notice the difference between these two tickets here. This ticket has been in progress for 25 minutes. That's no problem at all. So that's not highlighted. Whereas this one's been in progress for a week, which is way over the 2-day threshold that I set there. So it's highlighting it for us there. So we can see, okay, this ticket is a problem. And then the last thing I did was turn on the SLA indicators here. here. So now we see when the SLA was due, or it could be in the past, could be in the future. This one is highlighting in red automatically because we know that it's in the past. If it was in the future, but within the next 30 minutes, which is the SLA, the threshold that I set there in the warning, then this would show up in an orange highlighting color instead of red. So that is a few of the ways that we help identify the problem work here. So now, how would you actually use this as a service manager or a dispatcher? So let me explain a few ways. So one is if you're looking to do the triaging work, you can view a variety of the fields about one of these tickets here. So under this menu, I can click there and click Edit Ticket, and this is where I can see things like what company did this come from? What's the contact? Does it have a what um, can I set like the type subtype item on that, or see the initial description that will show up if it has one? And I can set budget hours and things like that. So that's useful for part of your triage process. Now, if I want to assign it to somebody, I can actually drag it over into, for example, if I want to assign this to Terry, I can just drag it down into Terry's ready column, and it will assign it to Terry and change the status on that ticket for me. So that would be one way I could triage and dispatch that from TopLeft. If I don't want to drag between the swim lanes, or if I'm using a swim lane option that is something other than the resources here, then I can just click Manage Resources under this menu, and that gives me additional options for assigning people. I can also assign multiple people from this, or in auto task, you can set the primary and the secondary assignments there. You can also make service calls, either under a dispatch or Autotask says new service call there if I want to actually put it into someone's calendar. And then finally, one of the things that you can do um, to help with triage is by dragging tickets up and down within a column in order to set their, basically order them or rank them within the column. So this I can use in my team to indicate what order a technician should be working on that ticket. So a technician might know, okay, I work from the top, whatever's at the top of the column, I would work on that first. And so you can put these in a certain order just by dragging them into the right position that you want. So this is an alternative to putting them into the calendar to indicate what order to work on them for any particular engineer. And as I mentioned, this is we also show the indicators here, so you can do other important service management work, like finding the tickets that have been stalled by looking for tickets that are highlighted here with the warning about how long they've been in the status, or by finding the engineers that have too much work by looking for the work in progress limits, or just seeing who has a swim lane that's full of tickets in progress, or in any other column. So that's ways that it can be useful for a manager. For a team, this board is also really useful for a team meeting. So you might get all of your technicians in a room or on a call online and show this board, and you can actually go through it member by member, and they can just very quickly talk about any of the tickets that are worthwhile to talk about, because they are blocked somehow, or because they have way too much work to do. So it can make that sort of meeting very fast and very effective by just going through each member of your team, swim lane by swim lane. Okay, so that kind of wraps up this board. Now let's talk about the second board that we recommend, the one that's really useful for technicians. So now we've already done a lot of good work to set up this board, so I'm not going to start out fresh. I'm just going to copy this board in order to make the second board. So I can edit that, and under Actions, click Clone Board. To make the second board, I'm only going to make a couple little changes. One is I change the title, Helpdesk Tickets for Technicians. And I'm going to clear out the swim lane option here because I actually want to see all these tickets all together. So I just change the swim lane field to the blank option there, and that's it. So Same board, but basically we're just showing it without the swim lanes. Now, it's not really useful just in its default mode like this. We still have all of the tickets here, and now they're not even organized in any real way at all, other than by the columns. So this like this, not super useful, but it's very easy to make it useful for a technician. All they have to do is visit this board and click on the My Tickets button here, and that will filter it automatically to just show the stuff that they're assigned to. So this is how a technician can get a really easy view of only those tickets that they are responsible for. So they can use the My Tickets button to just do that with a single click. Um, if you want to see the work that's for one of your particular engineers, you can click filters in the top menu here and just fill out the resource field. There's a few other other fields that you can use as well to filter what's on the board. So that's how you can do it if you were looking for somebody else's work. Either way, whether you get to this view by setting the filter yourself or just by clicking My Tickets there, notice that the URL of this page has changed. The filter choices are actually embedded in the URL. That means that you bookmark this page to get back to the filtered version of this page with just a single click. You can put that in the toolbar, bookmarks toolbar of your browser, or make it a pinned tab in order to have just a really quick place to get back to every day to see your own work. Now, again, this is useful for a technician to be able to see what work is having some problems. They also see the warnings here about things that have been in progress too long. They can see here that they are over the maximum of 3 in the work in progress, and they can see the queue of work that's coming up for them. One thing that they should know, a technician should be aware of, is they can make time entries from top left. So under this menu here, they can make time entries in addition to all of the other things, assigning and edit, changing the various tickets fields about the ticket. They can also enter time. So that'll save them a lot of time. They can also use these timers here on each card as a way to easily track their time on those tickets. So that is how helpdesk technician should be using TopLeft. There are just a couple of other boards I'll mention that you might find useful. One is kind of a refinement on the board that's for the technicians. Recall, that board still has the new column in it, but that's not really relevant to the technicians. So you could refine that a little bit by removing the new column for the board that's intended to be used by the technicians. The second sort of board that might be useful is a board like the member swim lane board, but choose a different swim lane. For example, you might find it useful to organize the work by the company of the work or the account, so that you might show it. That would make it really easy to see the companies where maybe you've got 10 or 20 tickets for a single company at any time versus companies where you only have 1 or 2 tickets at a time, and that can help you prioritize your work. You might also choose the priority queue so you can really easily see at the top of the board the highest priority tickets, then have a swim lane for the medium priority tickets, and then the normal priority tickets after that. So those are a couple of other options that could be useful. Okay, thanks for watching. That wraps up the recommended boards that we have for Helpdesk.